The year is 1945. The world is engulfed in the fires of World War II, a conflict that has reshaped the very fabric of nations and societies. It was a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality, leaving a trail of devastation across continents. Cities lay in ruins and millions of lives were lost or forever altered. In the Pacific Theater, the Allies were locked in a bitter struggle with the Empire of Japan. The battles raged across islands and oceans, each side determined to claim victory. The battles were fierce, marked by unwavering determination on both sides. Soldiers faced unimaginable hardships, fighting in harsh conditions and enduring relentless combat. The conflict had reached a fever pitch, and the world held its breath, bracing for the final decisive blow. Leaders strategized, and civilians anxiously awaited news, hoping for an end to the bloodshed. The use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 brought a swift and decisive end to the war in the Pacific. The cities were obliterated in an instant, and the world witnessed the dawn of a new, terrifying era. The sheer destructive power of these weapons shocked the world and forced Japan into unconditional surrender. The war was over, but the scars it left behind would last for generations. However, this act also ushered in the atomic age, casting a long shadow of fear and uncertainty over the future of humanity. The threat of nuclear annihilation became a constant presence in the global consciousness. But what if this event, this pivotal moment in history, had unfolded differently? What if the decisions made in those fateful days had taken another path? What if the atomic bombs had never been dropped? How would the world have changed? Would the war have dragged on? Or could a different resolution have been found? These questions linger, inviting us to ponder the endless possibilities of history. Without the devastating impact of atomic bombs, the war in the Pacific would have continued, likely dragging on for months, if not longer. The relentless nature of the conflict had already taken a severe toll on both sides, with no clear end in sight. The Japanese military, entrenched and unyielding, had vowed to fight to the bitter end. Their strategy was one of attrition, aiming to inflict maximum casualties on the invading forces, hoping to force a negotiated peace. Every inch of land, every island was seen as sacred ground to be defended with unwavering resolve. The Japanese soldiers were prepared to sacrifice everything, driven by a deep sense of duty and honor. Allied forces, facing this unwavering resistance, were left with a grim calculus. They had to consider the immense human cost of a prolonged conflict, weighing the potential loss of life against the strategic necessity of ending the war. A conventional invasion of Japan was estimated to result in millions of casualties on both sides, a horrifying prospect that weighed heavily on the minds of Allied leaders. The potential for such staggering losses made the decision to use atomic bombs a desperate, yet seemingly necessary measure. The conflict, already marked by immense bloodshed, threatened to escalate into an even greater tragedy. The devastation witnessed in previous battles served as a grim reminder of the potential horrors that lay ahead should the war continue unabated. Caught in the crossfire of this relentless conflict were the Japanese civilians. Already enduring severe hardships due to the war, a prolonged conflict would have exacerbated their plight. With resources stretched thin and cities under constant threat of bombing, life had become a daily struggle for survival. Food shortages became increasingly common, leading to widespread malnutrition, particularly among children. Medical supplies dwindled, making even minor illnesses a serious threat. The physical and psychological toll on the Japanese people would have been immeasurable, leaving deep scars on the nation's collective psyche. As the war in the Pacific raged on, another powerful player watched with keen interest: the Soviet Union. The Soviets, having already demonstrated their military prowess in Europe, were now eyeing opportunities in the East. Having already declared war on Japan in the final days of the conflict, the Soviets had their sights set on expanding their influence in Asia and the Pacific. This move was not just about defeating Japan, but also about positioning themselves as a dominant force in the post-war world. A prolonged war would have provided them with the opportunity to seize territory and establish a stronger foothold in the region. The Soviet military was prepared to push forward, capturing strategic locations that would benefit their long-term geopolitical goals. The potential for Soviet intervention in Japan was a significant concern for the United States and its allies. American military strategists were acutely aware of the implications of Soviet expansion and were determined to prevent it. The emerging rivalry between the capitalist West and the communist East was becoming more pronounced. This ideological battle was not just about territory, but about the future direction of global politics. The early stages of the Cold War added another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. The world was on the brink of a new kind of conflict, one that would shape international relations for decades to come. A divided Japan, similar to the fate of Germany, loomed as a real possibility. Allied leaders debated the best course of action, knowing that their decisions would have far-reaching consequences. The long-term consequences for the region and the world were profound. The geopolitical landscape was being reshaped, and the actions taken during this critical period would influence the balance of power for generations.